Board Chair. We do have a quorum. Thank you all for coming tonight. Before we begin, the Board of Education would like to send our deepest condolences to the families of Anna Crosby, District School Psychologist, and Anthony Moran, a member of the Stratford Public Schools IT team. Please join me in observing a moment of silence. Thank you very much. Now I will hand it off to our Board Secretary, Amy Wiltsey, to lead us in the invocation and pledge.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Everyone, please stand. We beseech you, Almighty God, to bless this meeting of the Board of Education, so guide and rule over our hearts and minds that all our deliberations and decisions may be in accordance with your will and lead to the advancement and welfare of the community of Stratford for whom we serve. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated.
Thank you, Ms. Wiltsey. We'll move on to our student representative report. We'll begin tonight with Daniel from Stratford High School.
Good evening. It has been an exciting time at Stratford High School. On Thursday, September 28th, Stratford High Schools held 2 open houses. Our traditional open house started at 6:30 and parents are welcomed to SHS by our band, who was performing out front as parents arrived. At one point, over 250 parents were lined up in front of the building as they performed. Additionally, that same night, we held an open house for our Early Childhood Learning Lab. Our Vicky Soto Learning Lab is open to expand the learning opportunities for our students. This is an amazing opportunity for our students and for the community members who can access this service. Stratford High School is happy to announce that we are one of 7 schools statewide to take part in the inaugural High School Girls Flag Football League. With the support of Dr. Osunde and Ms. Mangini, we are able to join this groundbreaking league that spans the entire state. All games will be held at Lyman Hall High School in Wallingford. This league is sponsored by the NFL, and the regular season champs are invited to the Cancun Bowl. Yes, in Mexico. On Wednesday, October 4th, SHS PTSA held their first meeting of the year. Thanks to the efforts of President Amy Wiltsey, the meeting was attended by parents and students. It was the highest attended meeting in many years at SHS. Thank you to all. On Tuesday, October 10th, SHS began their 21st Century After School program. The program is completely filled. This is a great way for students to extend the school day with CANMIUM support and enrichment activities. On Thursday, October 12th, the 9th, 10th, and 11th graders at SHS took the PSAT. With almost 800 students taking the test, it went extremely well. Senior on that day learned about the FAFSA challenge and application process and more details about their mastery-based credit requirements for the year. The school counseling department has been busy meeting with seniors regarding their post-secondary applications and planning. Many students are looking to meet the November 1st deadline, which is the Connecticut State College Fee-Free Day. As you heard, all 9th through 11th grade students were digitally tested for the PSAT, where we saw a 92.8 participation rate. School counselor Haley Kabza took a group of 40 students to UConn Stanford for a school tour and to see the college in action. Also, on Thursday, she will be taking a group of 40 students to UConn Storrs campus. Additionally, Stratford High School received notification that our application for the 2023-24 CT FAFSA Challenge has been approved. Our goal is to have 72% of the senior class complete the FAFSA application. Today marked the start of Stratford High School's NEASC Collaborative Conference. Staff at SHS have spent the past year preparing for the visit, and today we welcomed our visiting team. To help gain authentic feedback, every classroom at SHS was open for visitation. We want them to experience all that we have to offer. Our visiting team will be back tomorrow to conclude their collaborative visit. Also, today was the start of our Spirit Week. Today was a celebration of the 90s. Tomorrow is Groutfit Day, dress in all gray. Wednesday is Country Club versus Country Western. Thursday is Barbie versus Oppenheimer. And Friday is Color Verse. You are all welcome to participate. Send pictures of you dressed up to Mr. Delapiano for your chance to win some great prizes. Thursday night, SHS will host their homecoming dance for students in grades 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th. Friday, we will hold our homecoming pep rally, and Friday night, the Red Devils football team will take on the Panthers from Pomperaug, where our homecoming court will be announced. On Thursday, November 9th, SHS will be hosting our Veterans Celebration. We invite all Stratford veterans to be honored this Thursday before Veterans Day at an assembly in Stratford High School's auditorium. The celebration includes recognition of local veterans and musical performances, followed by a delicious luncheon hosted by the SHS culinary students. If you would like to participate in the celebration, whether sharing your story or simply enjoying the cuisine, please contact the main line of Stratford High School to provide your contact information and let Mr. Delapiano know. Thank you guys and have a great night.
Thank you, sir. And next up, Barum from Bunnell.
Hello and good evening, everybody. My name is Barum Alfrey, and I'm excited to tell you about Bunnell's top highlights for the month of October. Starting off with the school's podcast, Bunnell Students Runs podcast is back for another season, with video, new hosts, new segments, and the same fun, engaging content, and to share with the Bunnell and larger Stratford community. So join our 4 hosts and yours truly, and our producer each Friday morning on Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts. Next, we have the Humanities Department. Students from Bunnell Journalism and yearbook classes attended Southern Connecticut State University's 38th Annual Journalism Day, where students attended workshops on various journalism topics. Students from the African American, Black, and Latino study classes attended the Discovering Amistad program at Captain's Cove in Bridgeport, where they boarded the ship and learned about the fight for freedom during the Amistad Uprising. We are excited to announce that the Bunnell's 2023 yearbook was awarded inclusion in Walsworth Gallery of Excellence, which is Bunnell's very proud to win this for a second year in a row. Moving on to our guidance department. The state of Connecticut has rolled out a new automatic admission program called CAAP. The school counseling team at Bunnell will be meeting with the students who qualify for this benefit, as well as with each senior to assist with post-high school planning. There's a virtual financial aid webinar with Barnum Financial, and there's a virtual on October 26th and November 4th. This is open to all the families. This year, students will receive dual enrollment credit from UConn at no cost at all to the families, which a lot of people like that. On October 12th, the PSAT administration occurred for Bunnell High School. 95 of grade 10, 9, and 11 students tested that day. Grade 12 students were provided with post-secondary planning seminar. Speakers from the Army, Porter, and Chester, as well as several local colleges. Our keystone speaker was Teresa Wilson with the Smart Start College Prep program. Moving on to our band. The Connecticut State Championships is scheduled for October 28th. And of course, like the rest of the season, there's rain in the forecast. The band held their annual cavalcade of bands here at Bunnell High School last Saturday, where they placed first in their class. As of today, they are currently the number 2 seed in the state. Moving on to our stage and theater program. Bunnell Stage is proud to present Clue, High School Edition, for our fall 2023 show. Performances are December 8th and 9th at 7 p.m. and December 9th and 10th at 2 p.m. And choir. The choir will be continuing their fundraising efforts to purchase uniforms this year. The choir will be performing at Radio City Music Hall before the Christmas Spectacular on November 30th at 2 p.m. We have our student government as well this year. Student government has been selling tickets for the homecoming dance, which will take place on Saturday, November 4th at the Marriott in Trumbull. Our theme for the dance is Northern Lights. Moving on to our leadership groups and extracurriculars. Our newly formed Hispanic Heritage Club hosted our second annual Bailar Conmigo event on October 6th. Members of the Men of Color and Living in Color groups took part in the VIP college tour this past weekend. And the men of color are very excited about our upcoming game night at the Baldwin Center on November 21st. Our Inspire Ed Club has been working extremely hard preparing for our 3rd annual cultural showcase, which will be held on November 22nd at Bunnell High School. Our Interact Club will be volunteering with the Town Hall at the Pumpkin Festival this Sunday for the 2nd year in a row. We'll be volunteering at the 2nd Helene Trunk or Treat on October 27th as well. The Women's Empowerment Club will be volunteering with the Center for Family of Justice in Bridgeport for the 3rd year in a row. The club will be participating in their annual Boo Bash on October 27th. Next, we have our Bulldogs in Training. Bulldogs in Training will take their first trip to 2nd Helene and Flood Middle Schools on October 27th to partake in a Halloween-themed takeaway and to get to know the kids as well. Moving on to Athletics Department. The Athletic Department recognized Olivia Ortiz, girls soccer, and Diallo Cowan, boys soccer, as the October Athletes of the Month. The boys soccer team secured the inaugural Rich D. Drickson Trophy after 2 wins over Stratford High School. The Unified Sports Program also hosted its annual SWC tournament and is looking forward to participating in upcoming tournaments at Newtown Youth Academy and Shelton in the coming weeks. In conclusion, thank you very much for allowing me to share all this happening at Bunnell, and have a nice rest of the evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you to both of our amazing student reps. We always love hearing from you guys, and have a wonderful evening. We'll move on to our presentations. I will take the first one. I'm excited to announce that November 13th through 17th is American Education Week. And so, in honor of that, I would like to read this proclamation. Whereas America's public schools serve all of the children of all the people, and whereas the strength of a community is measured by the schools it keeps, and whereas the schools of the new millennium need broad citizen support to meet the diverse needs of today's families and to help each student achieve his or her potential, and whereas educational excellence is built on the involvement of the entire community, including parents, business leaders, elected officials, public service personnel, and senior citizens. Now, therefore, we, the Stratford Board of Education, serving as the town of Stratford, do hereby proclaim November 13th through 17th, 2023, American Education Week. Everyone is urged to observe this week with appropriate activities and to renew their commitment to the education of each and every child.
We'd like to invite Mr. Fiorello and Ms. Recker to come down and receive this on behalf of our faculty and staff. Sure. I always forget about that picture. More photogenic than I am. More photogenic. Yes, and I have my notes up there. So I am going to grab it. I am going to ask our principals to come up here, and I'm going to head down to the podium and say a few words in honor of Principal Appreciation Month. Don't be shy.
Stand next to Andrea. Not fun sentence. Pork rind.
Isn't this the best looking group in the state? You know, a lot of people say that principals and leaders are the folks who are thought about last. And for me, this is an incredibly special group, a group that I work very closely with. And I may be biased, but I've shared with the board and I've shared with other colleagues of mine across the state that we have the best team of principals leading our schools right here in Stratford, Connecticut. So please put your hands together. I asked all of you to join us today because there's not too many times in the year where you get a little bit of shine, and you all look extremely sharp right now. But a few weeks ago, at the start of the month, I sent you all an email. It wasn't a long email, but it was an honest email. And one of the quotes that I included in that email, I'm going to read, and it says, "A leader takes people where they want to go. However, a great leader takes people where they don't necessarily want to go, but ought to be." Okay? This group right here has demonstrated that. You have a magical way of working with your staff. They believe in you. We believe in your leadership. And thank you for everything you do, not just for your school, but the community of Stratford. So on behalf of the Stratford Public Schools, the Board of Education, happy Principal Appreciation Week, right? Please put your hands together for these leaders. We do have some certificates here. There's one person who's missing. Dr. Graff, she is currently at a workshop right now, so we'll make sure she gets her certificate as well. All right? Okay. Another round of applause for our leaders. This is a group that there is no start or end time. And if you need them, you can always access them. And this is a group that cares deeply about Stratford children. Congratulations, and thank you for all you do.
Thank you to our principals, and thank you, Dr. Sunday. We will move on to our public forum session. I believe, Mrs. Lykudas, we have one speaker tonight? Okay. When you come to the podium, please announce your name and your address. You have 3 minutes. Mrs. Wiltsey will be keeping time for us. And thank you for coming out tonight. So our speaker this evening is Mr. DeCilio.
Good evening, Lou DeCilio, 65 Ferry Court. The word transparency is thrown around in politics a lot. It has a few meanings, but the one that applies to government is the quality of being open to the public. The Board of Education recently announced a $2 million budget surplus. The chair of this board and a few other members that follow the superintendent blindly without questioning anything went around telling the PTAs that all the parents that if the council underfunds the budget, we'll have to close schools because of underfunding, lay off teachers because of underfunding, cut sports, arts, music, and whatever your kids' favorite programs are going to have to be cut because of underfunding. Oh, and of course your kids' class sizes are going to double, triple in size because of underfunding. So I have a math word problem I'd like to run by you. If the mayor and the town council approve a budget for the Board of Education, and the Board of Education doesn't spend all the money they're given by the mayor and the town council, how much money is the Board of Education underfunded? The answer is zero. For the last 7 consecutive years, the Board of Education has millions of dollars in surplus. If the Board of Education doesn't spend all the money given, how is that underfunded? A surplus in government just means we've overtaxed the taxpayers. It's not a profit and loss like the real world. It means we've overtaxed. So when you have a budget and you continue to give back surpluses, saying $2 million in surplus, that $2 million is already cooked into next year's budget as well. So this next year's budget is already starting $2 million higher than what it should be. Now, if you start factoring in the $1.8 million that they tried to spend down in the last 2 months, your budget surplus should have been $3.8 million. That's a mill to our taxes. So for the first year in the 6 years that this mayor has been in office and this council, we actually had to raise the mill rate because of the Board of Education's lack of transparency. You even took the 1.8 million, you supplanted funds. You took money from last year's budget and you purchased things for this year, which should have reduced the expenses in this year's budget. So again, it's overfunded as it is. So any cut mentioned earlier is squarely on the shoulders of this less than transparent superintendent and any member of the board that doesn't question the accounting of the Board of Education administration. The superintendent and any board member who support the tactics of bullying teachers with their jobs and scaring the parents and students with closing schools and cutting programs should be ashamed. Asking hard questions for the sake of our children and teachers is the least you can do. Hold this administration accountable to the same level of transparency already shown by our mayor and town council.
Mr. DeCilio, your time is up.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
And I would like to extend gratitude to this evening's public speaker. We appreciate your dedication to the betterment of our education system and to the success of all students. We will move on to the administrative executive report. Dr. Sunday.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I am excited. I know we had our student speaker here earlier, and I'm excited to announce that I will be on the podcast tomorrow morning, right? I'm kind of nervous. I'm excited, but I'm kind of nervous. You know, sometimes students can be pretty assertive in their questions, and they know they have me cornered, so they may ask for a couple things for Bunnell High School. But I'm certainly looking forward to it. The podcast has been incredible, an incredible part of student culture. And again, I'm looking forward to joining you all tomorrow morning, so thank you for inviting me. Just want to announce to our community and our school system that tomorrow evening right here at Stratford High School, we will host the first installation of our Town Hall series. Tomorrow evening we plan to cover some of the major priorities that have been happening through the school system this year, and then also do something that we have demonstrated we have done over the last couple of years, which is to create space to hear from you. There's a lot of the academic year left, really about a little bit more than 3 full quarters. There's a lot of collaboration left, and because our theme this year is family and community partnerships, we invite all families and community partners to join us tomorrow. We're looking forward to it personally. I do want to take a moment to express appreciation to the community of Stratford. We sent out surveys regarding the redistricting study, and the last time I checked, we had more than 1,000 submissions. So please, a big round of applause for our families, our community members, as well as our town leaders. I know Ms. Temple has been working on aggregating the final numbers, and ultimately that information will come back to the planning committee, and we will deliberate on that work and ultimately forward a set of criteria to our consultants, SLAM Collaborative. Yesterday evening, I sent out communication to our elementary families regarding our music program. This is well documented here. We've had folks come out here to speak about the state of our music programs at the elementary level. It's been a long-going process, but I believe we are in a very good place right now. Last week, I met with all of our elementary faculty and staff, including some leaders from the district, and over the course of an hour, we had a chance to unpack a few things, but also drift towards solution generation and putting some ideas on the table. Prior to that meeting, I was blessed to be able to visit some classrooms and spend some time with teachers and get a chance to watch the kids engage in the work. The challenges that teachers articulated to me are things we further discussed last Monday evening. But I was really impressed with this group because there's a few things that stood out and popped out to me. One, passion for the subject matter. 2, passion for Stratford music. And certainly 3, passion for kids. We came up with a set of suggestions, and some of them, in my opinion, were easily implementable. But one of the additional requests that they made was for additional staffing to fill a need. This morning I met with my executive team and made the decision to move forward to provide that resource to our team of teachers. So I'm happy we're able to deliver on that, and over the next couple of days we will continue to work on the implementation of these strategies. But it also created the space for new ideas. One of our teachers made a suggestion that I think perhaps might not have been originally thought of. He made a suggestion that we have high school kids come down and provide additional support, which I thought was brilliant. So we're in the process of reaching out to our high school colleagues, seeing if we can put those things in place and mobilize those efforts. So with all of these strategies, we believe we'll be able to recreate the stability that we've been working towards over these last couple of weeks. So I'm proud to announce that to our families. Outside of that, that would wrap up the superintendent's executive report.
Super. Thank you. Any questions for Dr. Sunday? Down there? Anybody down there? Okay. Well, that's a first. Excellent. We will move on to our Chief Operating Officer's report, Mrs. Pangini. I mean, Pangini. That's just, sorry about that. Mrs. Mangini, Pam Mangini.
I like the way you merged that.
That's right.
Thank you. A few things I would like to share. I have mentioned previously that we are starting our budget development for fiscal year 25. We expect the new budget guidelines to be out to all our building principals and departments on Friday. And we did share with the board the budget timeline in the workshop calendars, and we will place those on our website for the public. Also, our capital budget, we have been gathering information. Our facilities director, Mr. Ruggiero, has met with all our building principals, and we are now compiling all that information, trying to get some best pricing. We will put a complete version together, and it will be shared first with plant planning, probably at their December or January meeting, and then it will go to the full board for a final approval before we share it with the town. And lastly, I'd like to share that I was fortunate enough to attend a great conference last week. It was SBOE International, and it included over 800 school business officials from throughout the country and Canada. The workshops were informative, and the opportunity to share ideas with colleagues was invaluable. One presenter from Arizona began her workshop with a very simple statement about budgeting. She said, "We project our revenues, estimate our expenditures, and when those revenues exceed those total expenditures, that balance is added to the fund balance." Of course, that was Arizona. And in Connecticut, that simply isn't the case. School districts are not permitted to carry over any funds from year to year. However, that comment reminded me that a year-end balance is a goal for strong budgeting, and towns and school districts need to add to their fund balance for a solid financial foundation. Another strong takeaway for me was a quote shared by a school business official in Illinois. She said that she uses as part of her signature line on her email a quote by Franklin Roosevelt, that school is the last expenditure upon which America should be willing to economize. I share this with you as there seems to be a lot of discussion throughout our community lately about the Board of Ed budget. Though we try our best to provide an open and honest information, there still appears to be some misunderstanding. I would just like to once again put the year-end balance discussion in perspective. The Board of Ed has had year-end balances over the past 5 years that averaged about 0.7% of the total budget, less than 1%. So overall, that means that we have budgeted with 99% accuracy. We are estimated to have a balance for fiscal year 23, Once the audit is complete, the number will be confirmed, but it is approximately $2 million. And yes, we did some spend down. So somewhere between 1.6 or 2.5%. Again, we budgeted with over 97% accuracy. Our savings for fiscal year 23 were reported consistently and clearly throughout last fiscal year as a result of salaries and benefits. We really can't control transiency, filling positions. We do the best we can, but we have to budget based on budgeted positions and known costs. Of all those unspent dollars, they're all returned to the town of Stratford, where they're often used to offset other town department deficit balances. For example, in fiscal year 22, the Board of Education returned $212,848 to the town as its year-end balance. The town's fiscal year 22 audit reflects that revenue was $196,000 above expenses. If the Board of Ed had not ended the year with a balance, the town would have ended its year with a deficit. All town departments, including the Board of Ed, set their budgets using the best estimates based on historical data and analysis. Oftentimes, town departments end the year with a surplus, such as the finance departments in fiscal year 22 that ended with a 10.1% year-end balance, or the rec department at 12.6%. or Public Works at 2%. I share this only to stress that all departments work hard to set their budgets as reasonably as possible and should not be criticized for ending the year with a balance that's returned to the town and can be used in practical ways, such as paying down debt or making improvements to town parks and playgrounds, or increasing the fund balance, which ultimately will mitigate tax increases. I believe the narrative should be one of collaboration between the town and the Board of Education. And educating our stakeholders about the nuances of public budgeting can be extremely helpful in avoiding misunderstandings and avoiding the spread of misinformation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rachel. Thank you very much for that clarification, and thank you always for the clear and practical way that you put everything in perspective for us. Any questions for Ms. Mangini?
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so I know one of the things, and we had talked about this at the Board of Ed Liaison meeting, and we've heard a lot about how salaries have impacted our budget. It was about $3.8 million surplus. But if you look at the line item in the budget, like the teacher's salary surplus was about $360,000, which is not
correct.
Which is not.
That is not correct, because when you look at our final,
That's the numbers that were presented in your report.
in the report, if I may at least explain, in the report, I was very clear that if you take that year-end balance final number, that is not accurate because we had transferred funds out. So you need to take your budget and you need to take the actual encumbrances to net out what that amount in that account was. I know we went through it last month, and I'd be happy to clarify it in a written report.
Sure, love to see it. And again, we use the 2.5% as our annual number of the increases, but that's not always necessarily accurate. I just think there are more accurate ways to do it, but above and beyond that is the tension and turmoil that the budget causes every year. And it was members of this board and administration who went out and created tension for families about not funding the budget to its fullest extent. So although I appreciate your comments in your report, the biggest concern is the people are taxed those dollars, and they're not refunded that money. But also, when you create that turmoil, telling our teachers and staff that their positions will be cut if we don't fully fund the Board of Ed, and that we will close schools, it does not create an environment of collaboration. And I agree, we should collaborate. And I've said before, I don't think that the board should ever have a surplus. We should spend those funds wisely as we go through it, and find ways to find resources that are needed during the school year, so we're not turning over dollars. And whether that would give us some relief in the upcoming year or whatever it might be, but to say that we have needs and then to return money makes it hard for the average person to understand that those needs aren't being met or why they aren't being met. So I think there's a better way. I think collaboration is the answer. I don't think the 2 years I've been on this, last year was better than the previous year, but I don't think it has been done necessarily in the spirit of collaboration, and members of this board have tried to create turmoil between this board and the council and the mayor's office, and that is not collaboration. That is not working together. That does not benefit our students, that does not benefit our staffs, and that does not benefit our taxpayers. So there's got to be a better way to do it. And hopefully coming next session, it'll be done better. I know we'll be looking a little deeper into the details and looking to get a little more accurate reflection of our needs so we can come to a true answer as to what we actually need and what fully fund the Board of Ed actually means. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. Dr. Sunday?
Sure. No, I appreciate the sentiments on the budget process. And Ms. Mangini, to this day, I continue to learn from you with your expertise. So thank you for sharing this with our folks. The budget process to the layperson is a very complicated and complex and moving process. The Finance Committee does an excellent job of really combing through every line before it goes to the town. Transparency is a very unique word. I think we understand that. But truthfully, the basis of our budget development has been grounded on the philosophy of trying to keep our workforce together, okay? Our professional staff together. I've said that very publicly. The targets and the goals and the priorities that we have at the Board of Education as a school system is anchored on making sure that we have a well-equipped staff positioned to do this work for our children. That philosophy is not going to change. While there is a reference about how the last 2 years have been from a budget cycle, I am also entering the start of my third budget cycle. What I do know is the turmoil, if you would like to characterize it that way, is not something that the Board of Education looks forward to. It's not something that this district administrative team looks forward to, but we do have to be transparent with our staff and our stakeholders about the realities of what happens if the budget is not funded as requested. I think we've done an excellent job of that. Transparency continues to be a narrative that is spread out there, and I understand that over the next couple of weeks, things are going to heat up a little bit more. This board, if there was a zero desire to be transparent, we would not openly send those funds back to our taxpayers who are hard workers and deserve those funds back. Now, as we continue to engage in our work, I have been, on behalf of the board and on behalf of my administration, I have been very open about the spirit of collaboration, and that position will not differ this year. Most recently, in our town liaison meeting, I felt we had productive conversations, but this year, as I said at the start of last year's budget cycle, becomes even more important because of the presence of the expiration of those federal dollars. Stratford is moving in the right direction, both in the school system side and on the community side. But collaboration has to be the basis of the work. If that is not something both sides are committed to, then I think you're going to see a consistent pattern, as it's been for the last 15 and maybe even 18 years, of parents coming out to advocate for the needs of their children.
Thank you. Any other questions for Ms. Mangini? Yes, Ms. Cubey.
So I'm not sure, I think Worcester might be the only school that doesn't have those water bottle fill stations. And I know at our last meeting or the one before, we were discussing sort of a list of sort of projects that we can fund when there's a potential, we're estimating a surplus. And so I wanted to propose that we add that to the list if it's not already in the works, because Ms. Fonseca is here. You don't have water fill stations, right? Okay. So if we could just add that to the list of projects that we need to get done, if funding becomes available, that would be great. I think some schools had theirs donated. But if we can just get all the schools up to the same level, that would be great. Thank you.
Water filters for all the schools, in case there was a school that wasn't mentioned that doesn't have water filters out there. I'm looking at the principals. Ms. Mangini, can I ask you a question? Because I've heard this statement sort of bandied about on social media a lot over the last few weeks, and it is that folks claim that we've been overfunded the last 2 years, and that this overfunding has resulted in an increase in taxes in our town for the first time in years. Can you shed any light on that for me?
Sure. The Board of Education budget is set based on all known expenses, so it has not been overfunded. We have X number of positions that are board approved, that we have made the determination are necessary to adequately run our school system. We must budget for every single position. We have no control over the transiency in personnel or the struggle of filling positions. Nevertheless, I believe that when you have year-end balances remaining that are primarily in salaries, and you have a budget that is over 75% salaries, and you're still within 98% of your total budget, that it's a very reasonable place to be for a year end. I will say that there are a number of factors that go into setting a mill rate. As some of you may know, I was a town finance director, so I do have firsthand experience on this. It's a challenge. Our town leaders are estimating revenues and expenditures. If you look at the town audit, they've been a little off on occasion as well for a variety of reasons, and that's not a criticism. You can look at any town budget. It's very difficult to get a municipal budget to the penny, if not impossible. However, you do your homework, you make certain you're making very guided decisions, and you look at historical data, you look at trend analysis, you take a lot of things into consideration. One thing I will note, however, is that yes, there was an increase in the mill rate for this year, but if you really take a hard look at the increases between the town and the Board of Ed received an increase of 1.39% to their budget, and the town's increase was 2.93%. So I can't say for certain why there was a mill rate increase, but I think that's worth looking at.
Thank you. Any other questions for Ms. Mangini?
Yes.
Yes, Ms. Vidal.
I think it would be, Ms. Mangini, I appreciate your analysis, and your analysis is welcome. However, I think we leave the town finances to the town finance, and, you know, we discuss the Board of Ed finances, and I think that regardless of what goes on the town side or the board side or whatever it is, you can't be both underfunded and have surplus.
But you can.
But it just doesn't make sense in transparency world.
May I try to explain once again?
Yes,
Madam Chair?
I would be honored.
Okay. You have to set a reasonable budget based on all known costs from day one. We bring that to the board in January. February 5th, 6th, the superintendent presents his budget. It is a solid budget based on all known costs.
Needs and wants.
No, all known costs. We have very little needs and wants in our needs, we do. Wants in our budget. I have explained during budget workshops that if you really break down utility costs, contract costs, personnel costs, we probably have 5% of our budget as true discretionary that we have any wiggle room in. It's minimal. So when you look at that and you proceed throughout your fiscal year, as towns experience, as other school districts experience, your needs change, your personnel changes, your utility changes based on degree days. There are so many variables. Your special education costs can change. So you can either end up with a surplus at the end of the year, or worse, it could be a deficit. And our goal is always to end up in the black. I've gone through 3 budget years here. We have gone to the town twice, very early in the year, to give them a heads up about our special education costs and our concerns. And fortunately, if you want to use that term, because of the pandemic, particularly the first 2 years, we had savings in a lot of areas of our budget that offset some significant increases in other areas. So we were able to end the year with a year-end balance. You will often find districts and towns that end up with a year-end balance, but yet could not fund all those positions at the start of the year with the assumption they would all be filled. You simply can't do that. If you are filling every single position, and I've said this during the fiscal year, that had we filled all those positions, our budget balance for fiscal year 23 would have looked significantly different because the majority of those savings were in salaries and benefits.
You know, respectfully, Ms. Spadell, and I was just listening to you, and you said to Ms. Mangini, I'm going to paraphrase, but to leave the town's budget to the town and let's focus on the board side. You know, in full transparency, that actually comes across as the opposite of transparency. I think, you know, the Board of Education's budget has been so front-facing and very public in ways that so many people unpack and analyze. And despite the hours and hours of work that goes in by the Finance Committee, when we are trying to perhaps understand the best ways to work with the town, and we engage in analyzing their budget, it comes across as we are being muted in unpacking that. And to me, that there's a transparency issue there that we need to be able to collaborate on. There's a narrative out there, and it's important that if we are doing what we're saying we're doing, which is being committed to transparency, that a counter-narrative that's fact-based also comes out to the taxpaying citizens of Stratford.
Thank you. Okay, any questions down there? Yes, Ms. Welty.
Madam Chair?
Thank you.
Just,
Ms. Welty.
yeah, one other.
Well, hold on, Ms. Welty.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah. It's,
Thank you.
And just before we, so this seating arrangement.
I'm sorry, I asked the floor.
I understand, but I was just going to say, this seating arrangement is not conducive to discussion between the panel because I can't see what's going on and I can't really necessarily hear the chair and I can't see another member raising their hand. So I apologize for interrupting, but going forward, can we somehow make this a U-shaped or 45 degrees so the members of this board can see each other and speak and not have to speak over each other? This isn't working.
Yes, we can work on that.
Thank you. Yes, Ms. Welty.
Thank you, Ms. Corcoran. I just want to speak to the last 4 years of creating a budget on the board and the last 2 as finance chair. We have never operated behind closed doors. We do not make any decisions in private. And our budget workshops are very poorly attended by anybody outside of our finance committee and our board. So I urge the public, if you hear the word transparency and you question our actions, to attend all of these workshops. There's nothing to be unturned if you do appear and watch how this all goes down. I would also like, as an exiting board member, to request, I guess, to the town and in spirit of collaboration, to meet and speak with our public school administration early. We shouldn't read about what we're going to be awarded on Facebook or in the Connecticut Post. That's unfair to our finance committee, that is unfair to us as board members, and it is highly unfair to our administration to read about something that they need to be working on. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hendrick.
Yeah, so I mean, during this budget session that has created this surplus, one of the things we did when we first got the council's budget numbers, which was $2.5 million reduction, is, you know, we found efficiencies through re-engineering, and that's how we made up that $2.5 million. And I said from the beginning, why didn't we do that in the beginning before we submitted the budget? And I know there are some departments that year after year, the 2 years I've been here, continually find new ways to save money and do things more efficiently, to provide better services. And providing better services doesn't mean it costs more. Sometimes providing better services allows us to create savings, which allows us to provide better services to our students. You know, I know the town we had the deficit with Sodexo. which was, I forget, $10 million, it was $1 million, pretty significant. But anyway, the town kicked that back. The town also gives about $17 million a year in in-kind services. The town has lost some of its funding because of the Alliance District. The year we're talking about, the town lost $1 million in its ECS funding that came directly to town. Last year, this budget's $2 million. The next year will be $4 million. I think the town has been very generous with us over the years. And again, it just comes back to changing the environment. The budget season we talked about was very tumultuous, and it was instigated by this board and some of its members. Last year was not as bad. Ms. Mangini has done done some hard work coming through this thing, but I do believe there's a better way to do it. But what we did 2 years ago was shameful. Last year was better, and I'm hoping with the new board, it'll be even better. And that's my goal, and that's where the transparency comes from. It's not opening our doors, but being honest. And 2 years ago, I don't believe we were honest with the public, and it created a lot of turmoil for families and a lot of tension for our staff, and I think it's time we put an end to that nonsense.
Thank you for that, Mr. Henrik. I'd like to know, by the way, that we talk a lot about efficiencies, and it's great to be efficient, but sometimes I think efficiencies is used as a euphemism for cuts. And I don't want to celebrate when we have to cut positions or not fill positions in order to recognize efficiencies. Any other questions for Ms. Mangini before we move on? Great, seeing none, thank you so much, Ms. Mangini.
Thank you.
Next up, oh, wait,
Sorry.
All right, Ms. Carol Fabian?
One question. Mrs. Mangini, right at the back and forth of was the Board of Ed fully funded, was it not fully funded? That question plagues out there on social media and everywhere else. So as a result, was the board fully funded? To my understanding, no. Did that mean we had to make staffing cuts? Did we make staffing cuts, Mrs. Mangini?
Yes, we were awarded 1.39%, and we did reduce 7.6 teaching positions.
But I would also extend on that. Without the generosity of the town council with supporting us, supporting the school system and the Board of Education with that additional $1 million, the volume of cuts could look dramatically different. So it's important to note that, again, we are appreciative of that demonstration of support, and that allowed us to keep our workforce intact.
Thank you. Super. We'll move on to Dr. Daniels and her teaching and learning report.
Okay, good evening, everyone. So last time I spoke, we were talking a lot about the work that was happening in the curriculum instruction and assessment area, and I wanted to revisit that this evening with the reminder that teaching and learning is an interactive process. With that in mind, our office has been really trying to identify how do we support our children given the pandemic and the academic learning loss. We've placed a lot of energy this year, the start of this year and also at the end of last year, with looking at acceleration and use of assessments. We know that tutoring was another aspect of our work. And so this year we've been doing a deep dive and a focus on how to implement in the best ways acceleration and assessments. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that as part of our Learning Recovery Initiative. Our teachers these last couple of weeks have been deep diving into assessment design and using data during our data teams. So all across our schools, our teachers are using data to inform instruction. And what this means is our teachers are asking our children for understanding of their learning. And they're looking at what students are capable of producing, and then they are taking that information to inform their next level of instruction. We are asking our teachers to focus on grade level content as much as possible, filling in the missing foundational skills with just-in-time supports. We are moving away from a space of remediation, and the reason why we are doing that is because research shows that remediating past gaps will result in larger learning gaps. So if we're going to close the learning gap, it is critical that we focus on acceleration and the type of assessments. So we've been taking a significant portion of our time, and I want to commend the administrative team and the teachers and the administrators in my office who are not here tonight with their solid work of curriculum revision that has been underway. We've been working on getting all standards, grade level standards, on our website. So we hope that that will be available to all parents at the end of this year so that all families and students can understand what learning will happen across all classrooms, but also what assessments we use to measure student understanding. In addition to that, we have a separate team that's working on vertical alignment with Portrait of a Graduate as well. And Dr. Graff and Mr. Del Piano have been amazing facilitators. I think I'm forgetting a few more, but their next level of work is identifying assessments or performance tasks that will help to measure student preparedness and readiness, if you will, for post-secondary entrance. So we're excited about that work as well. Next week, we plan to conduct our first rounds of instructional rounds. Instructional rounds is the opportunity to visit all schools and classrooms and discuss the implementation of formative assessments in the classroom. How are we using assessments, which is an essential component of classroom work, and how are we using those assessments to raise standards of achievement? And so our findings will drive future professional learning opportunities for both teachers and administrators. With regards to professional learning, I want to commend our staff and leadership for putting together a robust catalog of professional learning opportunities on November 7th, Professional Learning Day. We have a variety of presenters from classroom teachers. We have external consultants coming in to work with our tutors and our kindergarten aides, our CIAs. We also have administrators, our APs, who really stepped up to the plate to create a variety of opportunities to support the collective effort to supporting classroom instruction. So we are excited about that work and that professional learning that's coming. In addition to that, I want to acknowledge additional professional learning that our administrative team and our teachers have engaged in, which we're excited about. And so that's the NEAS visit to Stratford High. It started today, it will complete tomorrow, but this essentially is an opportunity for professional learning. We look and see how our teachers teaching, but also how students are learning. And so with that feedback, our schools, our high schools will be able to take that and to, again, inform and improve teaching and learning process. We also had several of our administrative team, department heads, and teachers, a student, and a parent attend the Portrait of a Graduate visit to the Berkshires to also look at how do we increase rigor and purpose, and also the vertical alignment that we talked about with our curriculum, making those alignments, and the mastery-based credit. So we're excited about that and that new learning. We also have new learning with the science of reading. Our team went up October 10th and will continue on October 25th to learn a little bit more about the science of reading. And it's not necessarily just what is the science of reading, but how to measure outcomes with the science of reading, what strategies, what to look for when we're inside of classrooms. So it's a very informative professional learning opportunity for our elementary administrators. We anticipate our Alliance visit coming up soon, which will also be another opportunity for professional learning. Generally, when the state visits us for Alliance, they talk with us about how teaching and learning is going, how are we supporting children, look for evidence or indicators of growth, and then we are provided with feedback. So we expect for that visit to happen soon. For our parents that are listening in the audience or at home, I'm going to encourage you to read our updated assessment schedule that can be found online. We are working to put that on our website as well. And there are some upcoming assessments that I wanted to make sure was noted this evening. So we have our kindergarten entrance inventory, and we also have our fitness assessment, and we have our upcoming DESA survey that our students will be engaged in. Schools will continue to communicate on our assessment results, but you're welcome to reach out to us to ask questions and raise concerns. And we also anticipate some further communication from Ms. Susan Schmidt, our curriculum supervisor of literacy, Melissa Redding, our family and community engagement specialists, who are working collaboratively at this time to produce material to support the parents' understanding of science of reading. And last but not least, for our community, we have a post-secondary committee that is up and running, but we're pretty much restart again, because we started last year, where we will do a needs assessment on whether or not we are preparing our students for post-secondary ready. So we have members, students, administrators, teachers, board members. We are coming together collectively to do a needs assessment and then ultimately create short-term and long-term goals to help improve the post-secondary process. So all of our children, when they graduate, their dreams can actually be actualized, whether it's military, whether it's the career, trades, or if it's going to be college. And that is the end of my report.
Amazing. Thank you, Dr. Daniels. Any questions for Dr. Daniels? Yes, Ms. Bedell.
Hi, Dr. Daniels. I haven't even seen you this evening yet. Just a quick question. You mentioned there's no remediation. Is that no tiered support this year?
Thank you for asking that question. So remediation and tiered support are two different things. Our children right now are inside of classrooms and they're receiving instruction. Teachers have the ability to use data to determine if they want to apply interventions inside the classroom to fill in gaps. We're trying to stray away from the language. Carla's gonna laugh at me. We call it Tier 1 intervention, Tier 1 plus. Tier 1 plus. So this way, when teachers are in a situation where they're not sure yet if they need to be Tier 2, they can try out certain goals in the classroom. If they collect data and they identify that the student is not meeting the grade level standards, they will have an opportunity now, because we've built intervention blocks, to enter into the intervention block and receive Tier 2 support, which generally is wrapped around maybe 2 to 3 goals to help accelerate. And obviously, if the child needs more time and the Tier 2 is not working, then Tier 3 happens, and that is about 30 minutes. It can happen 4 to 5 times in a week. And then again, multiple goals, SMART goals aligned to what the current needs are, and we support with learning. So when we say no remediation, what we mean is we're not going all the way back and saying to a child, you're 5 years behind, we're gonna start you at the 5th year. We're saying this is where we need to move, and we fill in the gaps to help them move there.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Madam Chair, just one more question.
Yes, ma'am.
I noticed Lexia missing from a lot of classrooms this year. What's going on with that?
Yes, so last year, the district made a decision to remove Lexia based on usage and application in the classroom to try to shift back towards academic instruction as opposed to using programs online. And there are still components of Lexia in some of our existing programs now, so it was duplicative. And so the team last year made a decision with Dr. Gata, et cetera, to remove the program as an additional cost.
Can I just say that my son has been asking for that for 4 years every time I come to a board meeting. So anyway, sorry, I digress. Ms. Volsi.
Thank you. Dr. Daniels, you just spoke of the post-secondary committee, and you spoke of it being with administrators and with board members. Are you welcoming parents onto the committee for community support?
Yes, I'm sorry if I wasn't, if I didn't state that. So these are parents, students, administrators, teachers, our school counselors, and Joanna Nigerian Garb and Samantha Rosenberg. Samantha Rosenberg runs the CTE program. So we have the grant for the Perkins grant there, so that will help us with the dual credit opportunities as well for students who are interested in trades and other areas. And then we also have Joanna, who does most of the post-secondary planning. We also have Ms. Temple, who's part of that conversation, so we can have a diverse lens on the work that we're doing. And we're hoping that we would come together, talk about our needs, do a kind of a needs assessment, identify if there's additional voices required to help shape the short-term and long-term goals to build a robust plan. Ultimately, what we create will make up our student success plans. So students have a student success plan,
yep.
And we identify what are the things that our students will engage in to ensure that they're prepared for when they graduate to go into a 2 or 4 university or a job or the military.
Got it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions for Dr. Daniels?
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
Just to follow up on that, I did receive an invitation to that committee, and I noticed, I think it's at 2:30 on a Friday, and I know you mentioned parents as well. Most of us have jobs. Didn't know if we could do that, and I don't know if it's just because it's easier for the staff, or you know, my job is sometimes flexible, sometimes not, so I'd love to be a part of that, but Sometimes daytime hours get valuable. But also I know Mr. Kennedy is involved with that type of process within his own work, and didn't know if he's been invited or could be invited as well.
Absolutely. So I will make a note of that and reach back out. I think right now what my team was trying to do was kind of establish some dates for us to start sitting down. Earlier this year, there were some questions related to our post-secondary process. And I met with a few members and we talked about some of the needs. And so we really want to start moving quickly to respond to some of those needs. We heard from a perspective of parents around GPA and other areas. So we want to make sure that we are creating opportunities to listen, find out the need, and then begin creating and implementing. So I will definitely take that and move forward with that. Share that with the team.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions for Dr. Daniels? Great, thank you so much. We will move on to our consent agenda. We have 3 items on it today, so I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda, which includes the approval of meeting minutes from September 26, 2023, this month's personnel document, as well as the overnight field trip to Yale for Model UN.
So moved.
So moved by Mrs. Wiltsey.
Second.
Second by Ms. Carol Fabian. Before we enter any discussion, I would just like to note that there has been a typo noted and fixed in the meeting minutes. It is noted that Courtney Brown was not in attendance, but she was. So we want to give her credit for that. So as we approve, it would be with that correction that has been made. Any other discussion?
Madam Chair, just
Yes, sir.
quick, so I noticed in the personnel documents, and I don't know if I missed it in Dr. Daniels' earlier report, but there was 21st century after school program. A lot of teachers were hired that, and it was done through a grant. Can you give a little description about what that 21st century, if you haven't already, after school, and what grant that comes out of?
Was that for me?
Yeah, I think it's for Dr. Daniels. Yes, sir?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. No.
Down on the end, yes.
I'm
ma'am.
sorry, I'm just, no, the 21st Century Grant is something Stratford's had for some time, in which they provide financial supports for our students to receive additional time after school with teachers to develop their 21st century skills. So at the time, they call it 21st century, but I'm going to use POG because they're very much aligned. And so our children have engaged, for instance, in the summer programs like the empowerment opportunity where they develop leadership skills. They've engaged in trips, doing things like leadership activities, but also collaboration and building upon communication skills. We have recently begun to collaborate with Ms. Temple's office to look at other opportunities to also expand on the program, but also look at ways that we could develop, again, the post-secondary components and also the literacy component. So we've been having dialogue around that.
And I noticed it seems to be in every school. I think there was at least one teacher being hired.
Middle and high.
Secondary.
Secondary.
Anything else?
Nope, that was it.
Okay. Anybody else with any other discussion around the consent agenda? Okay, seeing none, we will have a roll call vote. This will include the correction to the minutes, by the by. Mr. Henrik?
Yes.
Ms. Bedell?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Ms. Carol Fabian?
Yes.
Mrs. Wiltsey?
Yes.
Ms. Cupie?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, passes 7-0. We will move on to our items for action discussion. We have no proposed budget transfers this month. And so our first item is the proposed curriculum. So I will entertain a motion to approve AP Macroeconomics, which came to us with a favorable recommendation from the Curriculum Committee.
So moved.
So moved by Ms. Cupie. Second. Second by Mrs. Wiltsey. Can anybody give us a little recap?
Sure.
Thanks.
So the AP Macroeconomics course is a fall semester course being offered. It explores the principles of economics that apply to an economic system as a whole. Students are using graphs, charts, and data to analyze, describe, and explain the economic concepts. Some of the topics that they will be covering throughout, or units that they will be covering throughout this semester course, is the basics of macroeconomics, the economic indicators and business cycle, the financial sector, open economy, international trade and finance, national income, price determination, and long-run consequences of stabilization policies. The presentation, I have to say, was phenomenal. Ms. Chelsea Mazza from Bunnell High School presented the curriculum. She is an amazing and phenomenal and enthusiastic and passionate educator. It was such a pleasure to watch her present, and the devotion she has to her students in our schools, it was just, yeah, it was unmatched. Like, she's something else. And I hope that we can continue to provide her all the materials she needs to make this course successful as it can be, because I know it is a semester course, and so it will be ending in January, however, but our students will be taking that AP exam in May. So we're hoping to find some grants or some other ways to provide her with some of the books that her students might need for studying to complete a 5 on the AP exam, and be best prepared and offer me, because she's willing out of the kindness of her heart to even offer tutoring sessions to them. So I think that just speaks volumes to her and who she is as an educator.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. Any other discussion on AP macroeconomics? Okay. Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote. Ms. Cupey? Yes. Mrs. Wiltsey?
Yes.
Ms. Carol Fabian?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Ms. Bedell?
Yes.
Mr. Henrik?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, motion passes 7-0. We'll move on to item number 3. I will entertain a motion to approve the curriculum for the Intro to Business course. Forward to the board with a favorable recommendation from the curriculum committee.
So moved.
So moved by Ms. Carol Fabian.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Wiltsey. Ms. Carol Fabian, would you care to give us a recap, please?
Sure. So the Intro to Business course, what they discovered was that the original pathway sequence was kind of void of like introductory courses. So this is going to offer attractiveness to the pathway, right? To really get students engaged and understand the different courses we offer within the business department. It'll provide opportunities for students to access rigorous and comprehensive courses. Some of the concepts that will be covered, it'll be like understanding business, economics, marketing, accounting, business law and ethics, hospitality and tourism, and entrepreneurship. Those are other courses that we offer, but this Intro to Business course will touch upon each of them so that it can pique the interest of students and give them a better understanding of which pathway they may want to choose or other business courses they may want to take in the years following.
Wonderful. Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote. Mr. Henrik?
Yes.
Ms. Bedell?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Ms. Carol Fabian?
Yes.
Mrs. Wiltsey?
Yes.
Ms. Cupey?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, motion passes 7-0. Moving right along. Next up, you'll see the renaming committee. Before we get going on that, I would just like to give you guys a recap on where we've been and where we are. Everybody should have policy 7551 in front of them, and that is our naming of school facilities policy. It states that somebody who is proposed to have a building or part of a building named after them must be in the employ for an extended period of time with the Stratford Public Schools, 10 plus years, and separated from service for at least 1 year. The nominator must present to Board of Ed with evidence of outstanding achievement, a resume of public service, and at least 10 letters of recommendation. We did convene a subcommittee. It consisted of, as per policy, the board chair, the superintendent, 1 administrator, 1 teacher, 1 parent, 2 plant and planning members, and 2 residents, as well as a student from Stratford High. The subcommittee was formed, and its charge was posted for a set amount of time. During this time, no other submissions were received for the naming of a facility. The subcommittee met and reviewed the artifacts. There was a motion to move on to the board. It passed 4-2. There were some reservations surrounding the quality and quantity of artifacts and what necessarily determined outstanding achievement. And so that is what we see before us. I have the materials here if you would like to review them. There are letters, and there is, I believe, 390 signatures on a change.org petition. So I have heard from some board members that they would like longer time to review these materials. If that is the case, I am willing to table this until next month to give you a chance to review. So, if I will entertain a motion to table this. Motion to table from Ms. Cupie.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Wiltsey. Any discussion on that?
Will you provide the materials for us to review?
We will provide the materials for review. Thank you.
There's no discussion on the motion to table.
I'm so sorry.
No discussion.
Thank you, my Robert's Rules friends. Okay. We'll do a roll call vote on that. Mr. Henrik?
Yes.
Ms. Spadell?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy? Yes. Ms. Carol Fabian?
Yes.
Mrs. Welty?
Yes.
Ms. Cupie? Chair votes yes. The renaming committee is tabled.
Madam Chair, can we
Yes, sir.
also, I don't know what you have in the documentation, but can we also get the meeting minutes as well?
I believe we can absolutely get that for you. Yes, sir. We will move on to item number 5, the graduation date and set date for the class of 2024. I believe this is just discussion, so I'm going to pass it off to Dr. Sunday.
Yes, this is discussion. In 2019, there was a public act that was passed that permitted boards of education to set the graduation date. This is currently in discussion phase, but my administration had a chance to take a look at the calendar, and right now, the last day of school is slated to be June 10th, 2024. As it stands, we are also making a proposal for the board's consideration for June 10th to be the last day for our seniors being the graduation date. Based on our count, the last 180th day of the academic year is June 6th, which is a Thursday. It has not been our traditional practice to hold graduation on Friday, so 10th is the proposal for the board's consideration. And barring any inclement weather through this winter, we will anticipate the 10th being our graduation date.
It's exciting. Any questions for Dr. Sunday about this proposal? No, we're not. It's a discussion at this point. It will be brought back to the board next month to be approved. Any questions, Mr. Henrik? Okay. Excellent. Well, thank you for that. That's exciting. Something to look forward to for our seniors.
Excellent.
We will move on to item number 6, which is, I will entertain a motion to approve the following. Filing of Form SCG049F, the final grant application for the photovoltaic project at Stratford Academy Johnson House, project number 1380111PV, with the Department of Administrative Services, DAS, Office of School Construction, and adopting the following resolution, accepting the project as complete. Be it resolved that the Stratford Board of Education accepts the Stratford Academy Johnson House State Project number 1380111PV as complete.
So moved.
So moved by Ms. Cupie.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Wiltsey. Do we have any discussion? We have our friend who sat through another meeting for us today. Any questions?
I guess just my assumption is that the project is complete.
Complete.
Okay.
This is just, we need this so we can get the grant money from the AS.
Excellent. Thank you. Any further discussion? Okay. Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote. Ms. Cupie?
Yes.
Ms. Wiltsey?
Yes.
Ms. Carol Fabian?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Ms. Bedell?
Yes.
Mr. Henrik?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Motion passes 7-0. We will move on to item number 7. I will entertain a motion to approve the following. The filing of Form SCG049F, the final grant application for the photovoltaic project at Bunnell High School, project number 1380110PV, with the Department of Administrative Services, DAS, Office of School Construction, and adopting the following resolution accepting the project as complete. Be it resolved that the Stratford Board of Education accepts the Bunnell High School State Project number 1380110PV as complete.
So moved.
So moved by Ms. Cupie,
Second.
second by Ms. Carol Fabian. Any other discussion?
Again, the project's complete?
Aren't you glad you came? Thank you for asking something, Mr. Henrik.
Hopefully you're getting paid by the hour.
Oh, man. All right. Well, thank you. Any further discussion? We'll have a roll call vote. Ms. Cupie?
Yes.
Ms. Wiltsey?
Yes.
Ms. Carol Fabian?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Ms. Bedell?
Yes.
Mr. Henrik?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you very much for your time. This will bring us to item number 8. I will entertain a motion to approve sending the letter that was provided in your packets requesting funding of the Education Reserve Fund to the Stratford Town Council.
So moved.
So moved by Ms. Cupie.
Second.
Second by Ms. Carol Fabian. Do we have any discussion on this? Ms. Mancini, would you mind giving us a little bit of background on this?
Certainly. My first year here in the summer of 2020, I did work with the town in developing the language for this ordinance. And it did pass, so the town has set up an education reserve fund. There are opportunities for it to be funded and 3 areas in which the Board of Education can utilize those funds, and that includes capital, technology, and unanticipated special education costs, all very important areas. So I think in a year where we are looking at such a significant balance, that it is worthwhile to make that request.
Excellent, thank you. Any further discussion on this?
And that was.
Mr. Henrik.
Sure.
Hold on one second, excuse me. Mr. Henrik, go ahead.
Sure. So I just, I mean, on it's just in principle, I don't agree with the principle of the reserve fund. You know, I'd mentioned that, and had asked if somebody would be willing to talk to the town about encumbering some of those funds to help offset our upcoming changes to our reading programs, which was stated would be about $1 million. I know you guys didn't want to do it, but I would have liked to have seen it done in a different fashion. I mean, we overestimated our costs. The town is, well, we've overestimated our costs all the last 7 years. But anyway, the town has always, you know, given us the money we need to do what we need to do, and I don't think we should ask them to hold on to it. So anyway, I just don't support the principle of the whole thing. So.
Okay. Ms. Cupie, going back down to you.
No, I just wanted to make a comment. You know, Ms. Mangini said this was set up in 2020. It's been how many years? We've been, you know, attacked for having surpluses, and it's still yet to have a single dollar in that reserve fund for the Board of Education. So I just want to put that out there for the record.
Thank you. Yes, Dr. Azande.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I'll say this, I mean, we have an opportunity here. If the town council sees fit in supporting the board in this request, I do know that funding this account would have a significant influence on the type of budget we present in the spring or in the winter. So we would encourage town folks to consider this deeply, and if there are outstanding questions they may have, we'd be happy to meet with them and share our position on this request.
Thank you. Yes, Ms. Bedell.
Can I just ask some clarity as to why this would change what we present as a budget?
This is an incredible amount of funds that can be applied to the 3 buckets that Ms. Mangini mentioned.
Right.
If we do that out of this year's funds, then the number we present ultimately to the town council and town administration will be influenced on how this is funded.
So the intention would be to tap into those funds in full next year?
With the buckets that we are allowed to apply the funds to, correct.
Any other discussion? Yes, Ms.
Maybe
Cupie.
Ms. Mangini just clarify that there are, per the statute of the state, there are specific things that reserve fund can be used
Yeah,
for.
the way I would view this is right now, as you know, special education budget is volatile in every single school district across the country, and particularly in the state. You know, there's ups and downs always. But we were able in fiscal year 24 to put in funding for out-of-district placements that were unexpected. And if we have money in the Education Reserve Fund, and we have discussed this with our town leaders, and they do totally understand it, it's just they have explained to us in the past that our balance was making up for deficits in other departments, so they weren't able to support any transfer into the Education Reserve Fund. But should they be able to, that would be an automatic, like I think it was $300,000 that we put into that line item that we wouldn't have to, because we'd have some kind of cushion. With regard to computers, my understanding is we haven't been really good about budgeting for our computer needs, and it was really through COVID and the pandemic and that additional funding through ESSER that we've been able to get to where we need to be, but our budget itself is not adequate for our technology needs. So if there is funding available for us to use in the future, we would not have to add those funds currently to our budget. And of course, we're very concerned about fiscal year 25 because we are trying to absorb a whole lot of positions that have been funded in ESSER.
Thank you. Any other questions around this or discussion? Yes, Ms. Spulte.
Ms. Mangini, can you just, for the sake of history, remind us, so we know that this was established by Town Council in 2020. Have we sent a letter of request at the end of each of our fiscal years requesting our surplus be placed in our Educational Reserve Fund? A letter such as this?
Right. The final ordinance wasn't completed until sometime in 2021, and we did make requests, whether they were formal through the full board process. I can't say for certain, but there was at least one letter that came on behalf of the board that did request funding, and that was done last year. Prior to that, we'd had email exchanges, numerous ones, identifying where we felt as a district there were opportunities to fund the Education Reserve Fund. And we did have some personal meetings with Mayor Hoydig and her administration as well.
Okay, and because not all of us are privy to the liaison meetings that happen each month, can you just let us know what the response has been with regard to this fund? Anyone that's on the committee can answer, I guess.
When it was brought up earlier this month, oh, I'm sorry, Madam Chair.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
When it was brought up earlier this month, they, Ms. Dancho and the liaison committee said that the letter would be reviewed by the town, and that.
I'm just asking for historically. So if we've asked before, and we're asking again, do we have any answers as to why it might work this time, I guess is my question.
What, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Why they might review and consider this time if they haven't before.
I think they've reviewed and considered in the past. I just don't think it's happened in the past 2 years. I don't see why this year would be any different in them reviewing, but I don't know what conversations they have.
Sure.
So.
We did get a commitment that it will be reviewed if it's submitted. However, the decision to fund the account is contingent on whether or not the town runs a deficit in other areas and the pressing needs of the town in various aspects.
Excellent. Yes, Ms. Cupie.
So, but this letter is a formality per the ordinance. So whether they're going to do it or not, whether they've done it in the past or not, we have to submit the letter formally requesting it, because the first year, as Ms. Mangini said, the ordinance wasn't quite clear, and so we didn't put it in a formal request, and so now moving forward, we have been doing that. So whether or not we get it, we still have to go through this letter process.
Thank you. Anything else? Super. We'll have a roll call vote. Ms. Cupie?
Yes.
Ms. Wiltie?
Yes.
Ms. Carol Fabian?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
No.
Ms. Bedell?
No.
Mr. Henrik?
Nope.
Chair votes yes. Motion passes 4-3. We will move on to item number 9, which is the proposed first read status of the 2 policies. I will take them separately. Let me just note that the policy committee will be meeting to discuss these in the very near future. But time is of the essence, because when the board switches over, committee work does halt for a while, so we're trying to expedite these policies. So I will entertain a motion to approve the first read status of policy number 3542.22, which is the food service personnel code of conduct policy.
So moved.
So moved by Ms. Bedell, second by Ms. Cupie. Any discussion around this? I know
Can we just get a little explanation for us and for the public as to what this is?
Absolutely. I think that Ms. Mangini would probably be the best person to answer these questions because I know that she was the one that worked on these policies that will be further reviewed.
Sure. This particular one is Food Service Personnel Code of Conduct. I will premise my comments by saying, well, these are mandated policies that we currently do not have as a school district. I can assure you that we have been abiding by all of this. It's basically pointing out the conduct that's expected of all persons engaged in the award and administration of contracts supported by the school food service funds. It points out items such as no district employee shall participate in the selection or award of a contract supported by program funds. And if there's an individual that has an interest in a firm selected for the award, whether they're a district employee, any member of his or her family, his or her partner, or an organization that employs or is about to employ one of the above, that would be considered a conflict of interest. It is keeping us very transparent. I know that word's been kind of bounced around this evening, but quite frankly, that is what we are looking to do. Other things that can become problematic in a food service program are items such as the removal of any food, supplies, equipment, or school property. That also is prohibited, and the outside sale of items such as used oil, empty cans, and the like are also not allowed. And failure of any district employee to abide by stated code may result in disciplinary action. And while it sounds a lot of common sense items, I have been in other places where these are sometimes issues, so I do think it's important that we formally adopt the policy.
Great, thank you. And again, this will come to us again in a more vetted form, but in the interest of moving things along. Any further discussion? Great. Mr. Henrik?
Yes.
Ms. Bedell? Oh, I'm sorry. Did you want to speak or did you?
Well, just for procedural,
Yeah.
this is a first read.
This is a first read.
Do we need to vote on it as a first read?
I believe we need to vote it through as first read.
Accept it as first read.
Yeah.
Okay, yes.
So, Mr. Henrik?
Yes.
Okay, Ms. Bedell?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy? Ms. Carol Fabian?
Yes.
Mrs. Wiltsey? Yes. Ms. Cupie?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, passes 7-0 as first read. I look forward to revisiting this one next month. I will entertain a policy to approve policy number 3542.41, which is the school lunch service professional standards for food service personnel as first read status.
So moved.
So moved by Ms. Cupie,
Second.
second by Ms. Bedell. Would you mind giving us a little recap, Ms. Mangini?
Certainly, again, this is a mandated policy. However, we do have all of this in place as it relates to specific professional standards and training that we are required to provide to our food service staff, and that's both through, we have to ensure that our Sodexo employees are receiving the required training, as well as our own district employees. And those hours are logged through Sodexo and shared with us, and we do work through the HR office for our own food service personnel as well.
Great, thank you so much. Any discussion on this? Seeing none, I will ask Ms. Cupie for her vote.
Yes.
Mrs. Wiltsey?
Yes.
Ms. Carol Fabian?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy? Ms. Bedell?
Yes.
Mr. Henrik?
Yes.
Passes 7-0. Excellent. Great. Thank you so much. We will move on to tabled items. I will entertain a motion to remove anything from the table. All right, let me make sure I can see you all. Excellent. Seeing none, we'll move on to committee assignments and reports. Curriculum committee met October 10th. Ms. Carol Fabian?
Sure. So many of the things that we discussed at the curriculum committee meeting on October 10th, we have moved through the board this evening. We were presented with the Yale Model UN Conference field trip that Stratford High School students will be taking. One concern that was brought up and questioned by some members of the committee were why this was only occurring at Stratford High School and not Bunnell High School. the head of the department noted that it is being worked on so that coming forward in the future, both schools will possibly have this opportunity available to them. We also were presented with the AP Macroeconomics course and the Intro to Business course by Sam Rosenberg and Chelsea Mazza. And then lastly, Dr. Daniels presented information on that new NWEA testing that we're using throughout the district, as well as where we're at in the MTSS process. That concludes that. We will meet again on November 14th.
All right, great. Mr. Kennedy, Ms. Cupie, anything to add? No? All right, thank you. Our Finance Committee met prior to this meeting today. Mrs. Wiltsey, any?
Yes, so I would just highlight that during our committee meeting, we were talking about a possible food service balance that we need to pay very close attention to, and we need to instruct all our families to apply for free or reduced lunch if they have not done so already. Another highlight of our Finance Committee meeting was the great grant work of Dr. Clemmy and some things that are coming through our system. And lastly, we heard from Ms. Borges regarding special education, and it concerns me a little bit that we're growing pretty close to the amount of children that we budgeted for, so keeping a close eye on special education per usual. And 24-25 budget workshops are being scheduled, so I urge everybody to pay very close attention to those dates and times and attend. And last but certainly not least, 6:30 p.m. on 11/27 is our next meeting.
And our last, anyway. We'll move on. School plan planning. I believe your meeting was...
Did not meet.
Did not meet. Okay.
Well, we did not meet, but as Dr. Sunday mentioned earlier, a survey went out to all stakeholders to collect input in terms of our prioritization for our the firm that we've engaged, SLAM, for them to use in terms of the boundary study that they're going to be conducting for us. I thought I saw where the deadline for completing the survey was October 18th. I'm not sure if that got extended or not, but the plan is that those results will come to the committee in time for our next meeting. We'll review that information and make a recommendation to the board to vote on.
Wonderful, exciting, and thank you to Ms. Temple for organizing that survey for us. Liaison met October 18th. Mr. Henrik?
Yeah, so thought it was a very good meeting. There was some very good discussion there. Dr. Sunday and his team attended. But we had some very, I believe, very productive conversations. The downside of those conversations is that the council members will be term limited out.